Dad keeps telling me that they got together and formulated an exact plan for Christmas, and it just doesn't feel like they did.
If this Christmas doesn't play out really well, I'm not having Christmas as a family anymore after this. Listen, I have a much bigger picture than anybody else in this family.
Listen, and the ignorance led us to blame Robyn. We were blaming Robyn.
We were literally blaming Robyn for this because we thought Robyn was in your ear telling you to stay away from everyone.
She's the obedient wife.
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. Last night on Sister Wives, oh my gosh, Kody Brown got into it with his son Gabriel. They had Christmas a year ago, and they also talked about favorites and blaming Robyn, but really now they're mad at their dad. And literally Christine kind of lambasted Kody, and then Kody threw Janelle under the bus. I was grossed out by the whole thing. I was like, yuck. And in the teaser for next week's episode, Kody ends the relationship, the marital, intimate relationship with his wife, Christine, and then she kicks him out of the house.
I'm not okay with staying in a marriage where there's no one.
I came out to the garage. Why is it Christine's house? Cody's books, Cody's clothes. I guess I've been moved out of the house.
So on last night's episode, Kody Brown decides to have Gabriel and his son Garrison, who he's been fighting with literally all season about the protocols that he's put into place, which I think are fake, but whatever, to talk about what's going on with the situation on getting the family back together. And Kody is having them come out to the property to, I don't know, like strip logs or something, and so that they can use it to build things, which, by the way, like nothing's happening on Coyote Pass. They haven't started building yet at all. But he and the boys were cutting trees down and stripping them and moving the logs around, and they were very big logs. While they were working, they were all talking about these protocols, and the kids sort of, Garrison and Gabriel, talking to their dad about, you know, what they think and what they feel about these protocols and how it's affected them and how they've been careful, but their dad has put things in place that have made it very hard for them to understand his rationalization. And they admittedly said that they blamed Robyn because they didn't realize where it was coming from.
We were blaming Robyn.
We were literally blaming Robyn for this because we thought Robyn was in your ear telling you to stay away from everyone.
She's the obedient wife. Whatever poison put that in their mind, I don't know if it's polygamy poison. I don't know if it's their mother poisoning them, because
they also talk about the protocols, the social distancing, all the different miscommunications that they've been having over the past several months. Gabriel talks about how he is going to bring up the pandemic at Christmas, and Kody gets super mad at him about that. And they keep going back and forth, and eventually it gets to a point where Garrison ends up leaving because he has to go to work, and then it's Dad and Gabriel just like one-on-one after they're done working.
I don't know why they think she's the one to blame just because she's the one keeping the rules.
So Gabriel basically talks about how it's been really hard on him, not only because he hasn't seen his dad, but social distancing from Christine is really hard for him. He in fact calls Christine like his primary caregiver and almost like his main mom. Like,
I think it's been hard, really hard for Christine.
Christine, as far as our family goes, not as a diss to any of the other moms, is our primary caregiver.
She's the one who raised us. She's the one who I was with all the time when I was a kid, like, because Mom was working. And he said, well, that hasn't been around since like we left Las Vegas, or since we were in Las Vegas, like trying to minimize like how Gabriel feels about Miss Christine.
From our youngest age, Christine has been the one to provide for 7 kids at a time, all the time.
It hasn't been that way since we moved to Las Vegas.
I understand, but people have been always coming over. I used to go.
So Christine did raise all the kids together, and then he starts going in at, you know, they go back and forth about how, you know, he says, I've had to social distance from my girlfriend. My girlfriend is taking this seriously. They talk about how Kody has never even met his girlfriend. Kody also is really not receptive to Gabriel. While Gabriel is like pouring out his heart and trying to talk with him and saying like, I have hardly talked to you. You don't talk to me about this stuff. You won't talk to me about that. We barely talk on the phone. And Kody's just mad. Like, he says to him, like, I didn't know what the rules were because we never talked about it. And Kody ends up getting like seething in anger.
Me and Mom.
Gabe, I thought I had called you before and told you why I was doing this.
No, like, you call me and I really like it. I like when you call me because I finally get to talk to you. Talk to you for a little bit. We talk about what our interests are and what we think about the current political climate, and then a little bit about COVID. But we never discussed it like this.
Why I was away.
Yeah, we never.
And Gabriel's trying to break through a wall to see his dad, like, we're like, get us on the same page. And Kody like flips out, and he is like, he's got steam coming out of his ears. He doesn't look, it looks like a really irrational response. And he is reacting in anger to Gabriel and basically making it like this blame game and saying that like he's had to take the blame for everything that's happened with COVID, and his mom is the Teflon queen. Like, he literally starts dragging Janelle and throwing her under the bus, acting like Janelle is being defiant and not listening and a horrible mother and causing all these issues.
It's not. It's your mother made choices and Christine made choices.
Mom?
And that caused the families to be separated.
Basically, it's a blame game.
Yes, and your mother is the Teflon queen. Bounces off of her onto everybody else. Oh, I'm going to make so many sacrifices for everybody else. I'm sorry, Gabe, but she screwed me this summer.
And like, he starts rallying and going on about how Christine and Janelle, they keep traveling and they ignore the rules. And it's like so awkward because Gabriel's the son and he's literally trashing the two women that he loves to Gabriel, trying to get Gabriel to sort of turn against them. And Gabriel's literally like, Dad, like, I'm trying to have a conversation with you calmly. Like, let's not react in anger. Like, that's how the conversation's going. And Gabriel is extremely emotional. He's wiping back tears during this conversation. And Kody never once tries to console his son. So Kody is more interested in blaming Janelle for defying him and blaming Christine for going on vacation, and they're the reason why he doesn't have a relationship with Gabriel. But when Gabriel's like reaching out to him, he's not offering anything. And then when Gabriel says, you know, I blamed Robyn because I thought these were your rules, he flat out says like, Robyn's an obedient wife. Like, that's the issue. She listens to what I say and she lets, and my rules go.
Is that Robyn's house, as I've been there more, has made me feel like that's my house and my rules and my family, makes me mad at myself all these years that I haven't been what I would call more patriarchal.
So he basically says the reason why he favors Robyn indirectly is because Robyn allows him to be the head of the household. She is submissive and obedient to him. And so therefore, what he says goes. And he doesn't have to fight with her about anything because he gets what he wants. How gross is that?
She sat her children down and she said, we're going into this family. You will be kind to this family and you will respect the parents and you will respect Kody as your father.
So, like, it seems like they're trying to start making headway, but Gabriel, again, is still super emotional, and Kody just is like, well, we're done. We're end of the day. And Gabriel is literally, again, wiping back tears. Kody doesn't say a thing, doesn't console him, doesn't acknowledge that his son is upset, doesn't acknowledge anything. It's all just like, Kody, 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 Kody. Your mom, it's your mom's fault. It's Janelle's fault. It's Christine's fault. Your mom's the Teflon queen. It's always my fault. And like, poor Gabriel just wants a relationship with his kid, and all Kody wants to do is be the one that's the head of the household. And he said he's mad that he wasn't more of a patriarch. Like, Kody, gross. Like, if the mark of a valid man is that you have control of your wife and kids, and that's how you mark your success as a parent, there's something astronomically wrong with you. And Christine used the word astronomically, so I'm just, she talked about wipes yesterday, and she said they'd gone through an astronomical amount, so that's just me adding that in there. So after that whole thing erupts and diffuses, Gabriel is in his one-on-one and he's still emotional and he's done. And they do settle on they're going to abide by what their dad wants in order to see them on Christmas. And that's kind of where they end up at, okay? So then out of all of this, after this, suddenly we find out that Janelle's mom has passed.
I was trying to make arrangements to bring her back down to me so that I could take care of her, but she just at that point was too sick. She couldn't travel. It went completely downhill, and so I rushed there and was able to spend the last few hours with her that she was alive.
And Janelle's mom apparently had been dealing with cancer, and Janelle let everyone know that she had been able to get back to Wyoming to see her mom right before so that she could spend her final moments with her. And Kody was going to Wyoming to spend time with Janelle to go to the funeral, and he told Robyn and Mary not to come, and so they didn't come, and they listened and they stayed. And Christine, I think, went. He didn't mention Christine at all. So they all talked about how, you know, Janelle's mom was like everyone's grandmother. She didn't pick kids. She treated the kids all the same, even if they weren't biologically her grandchildren. She was like everyone's grandmother. And Kody then made this, you know, talked about how she was his stepmom, his dad's wife, his mother-in-law, and Janelle's his stepsister, sort of, like, weird. So she wears all these hats to him, and so he goes there to the funeral, and he's there for Janelle, which isn't lost on me that Janelle's mom, it was okay for him to break protocols for the passing, which is a very, very big deal, but equally for his daughter, Isabel, when she went through her surgery, he couldn't break it. It's just really sad. Like, he'll pick and choose when he doesn't want to abide by his own rules. And he picks and chooses who he wants to break those rules for. And I think that's what's frustrating to the people in the family. Now, it's good that he was there for Janelle, but at the same time, he should have been there for Isabel. So everyone talks about, like, what a great mom she was, and that's it. Like, they come home, and when they get home, Kody stays at Janelle's house until they actually have Christmas, because he needs to quarantine. They tried to be very careful, but they obviously had a lot of people that came in for the funeral. So then Robyn goes over to Janelle's house, and Janelle's just like frank, and like in her one-on-one basically says that she has like no relationship with Robyn. Their lives never cross paths, and basically is just like, we don't have anything in common.
I really don't have much communication with Robyn right now. Our lives just don't really overlap, and it's sad, but it's just the truth.
And Robyn goes over there, I'm thinking mostly because Kody was there. I mean, that's just my thought. Kody was staying with Janelle at the time, and all Robyn could talk about was how much her kids missed Kody, which I was like, what? Like, your kids miss Kody? Like, how Ariella hasn't seen him in 10 days, and it's really hard for her. And I'm thinking, like, Gabriel didn't see his dad for 8 months. Or what about Truly, who like hasn't seen her dad in months too?
So Christmas is about a week away. They could come back positive, and then what are we gonna do? I could be having Christmas with just me, my kids, and Mary.
She's like 10 or 11 when this is going on. And you're worried about Ariella. Like, where was your same concern for Christine's kids and Janelle's kids? Anyways, and Kody hates the cliques. So he basically has said that Janelle and Christine are bullies. Oh, I forgot that part. Yeah. He is saying that the bullies have made it so other people in the family aren't accepted, and they're the reason that there's problems in the family. So anyways, yeah, gross. They sit down. Janelle talks about how this entire period of time has made her reflect on if she even wants to be in plural marriage, what's been going on. She says that this is literally the worst period in her life with her marriage with Kody. It's made her reflect on whether or not she wants to stay in plural marriage, to which she says, like, kind of reluctantly, that she would not leave plural marriage, and because she said it would be easier for her to leave.
I've caught myself in the last few weeks kind of reflecting and being like, okay, look, do I still choose plural marriage? Yeah, I still choose it, but I've had to have that conscious decision with myself.
And then Robyn starts talking again about her life and herself and says she's grieving sort of what had happened in the family and how the family has sort of fallen apart. And they both agree that everything that's happening with the family right now is being exposed by COVID, but it was happening before COVID. So their issues, their strains, their frustrations, the division, that had already happened, but COVID has just made it that more obvious. In a one-on-one during that same period, Christine also talks about how her life is not exactly how she thought it would be when she got married. She had ideas about what plural marriage would be, and she said it's been the exact opposite. And then she sort of like walks back on that and says, you know, we're going into Christmas. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to be happy.
What I hoped polygamy to be when I was younger ended up being something very different from what I actually have lived.
So Robyn is like grieving, and Kody is, then they all start talking about these rapid tests. So finally we've entered the period where they can take tests to see if they have exposure or if they're carrying the virus. So after he does his quarantine with Janelle, he goes to the ER and he gets tested, and he's all like crying about how, what if Ariella can't see me, and I promised Robyn I'd be home for Christmas, and like it's all about Robyn. And he tests negative, by the way. Like, it wasn't that serious. He was fine. And then he reunites with the kids, and the kids are so happy to see him, and all he wants to do is like kiss and grope on Robyn. It was so icky.
Wait, I gotta give mommy a hug and a kiss.
I'm looking forward to Christmas a lot because if we are able to be together, I'm just gonna have something feel like normal.
Nice to see you.
So then we finally get to Christmas, and Christine does gingerbreads, which is, they normally did as like a family, but they didn't do it as a family this year, so they did it at her house. I forgot about that part. Then they did get to Christmas, and Kody's moody and annoyed, and the Christmas was super, super quiet. So, you know, on the show, generally they're rambunctious at Christmas time. Yeah, not this year, not this season, not at all. It was very subdued. Mary did not get them Christmas pajamas. She actually got them Christmas somethings, big shirts that were like super comfy.
Apparently Mary is not doing pajamas this year. I don't know how else to describe these. It's a wearable teddy bear. Picture.
And then on the day of Christmas, they went to Robyn's house. So they did Christmas Eve at Mary's house. They did Christmas Day at Robyn's house. And at Robyn's house, Kody makes the reaction that Ariella doesn't even know her sister's names because she got a present from Savannah and didn't know who Savannah was. And then it's really mellow, really quiet. None of the kids argue or fight about anything to do with COVID. Everyone is happy for the most part. But there was quite a few people that didn't appear to be there. Like, some of the kids that we haven't seen this season were there but didn't really have anything to say. Gwendolyn made her first appearance, and I think Peyton was on there for a second. There may have been Hunter, but Christine's older kids, I didn't see them at all outside of Peyton. So Christmas, Kody was crabby, and the kids enjoyed themselves, but it was really mellow. So that was kind of what happened on last night's episode. Sorry if it was really not that exciting. The argument with him and Gabriel took up more than half the episode, and sadly, it didn't feel like Gabriel's needs were met. So my takeaway out of this is that Kody's decision to pick Robyn is basically because she'll listen to him and she obeys him. And Kody doesn't want a marriage. Kody wants to be in control. That's my opinion. And he is not willing to accept responsibility for his role. So instead, what his job is to make the women's fault everything. So if you've noticed a pattern with Kody, every time one woman does something, he throws the other woman under the bus to the other wife. He's constantly pinning the women against each other. And then when he can't win and gain ground with the kids or with the wives, he blames the moms to the kids. It's horrible. Like, Kody will never reflect on his responsibilities or his role, and then he cries about kids not accepting accountability. It's gross. Next week is when Kody tells Christine that he doesn't want to have a physical relationship with her anymore, and Christine kicks him out of the house and says that she doesn't want to have a relationship where she's not in an intimate relationship, period. So that's where the start of their marital problems will finally come to a head, and they will break up. So that's what we have for now. Kody's still a raging narcissist, in my opinion, and Janelle didn't deserve to be thrown under the bus. Robyn is obedient, submissive, gross. Like, no one should aspire to be like that. And Kody is not a partner. He's a dictator. And in Kody's world, it's nobody else's problem. It's never his fault. It's everyone else. Is that a sign of a narcissist? It is, and I don't know what else is. So tell me what your thoughts are about last night's episode. I realize this was filmed a year ago. Things are different now, but that's what I've got. All right, you guys, I'll be back later with more. Bye, guys.